What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 2021 My Team Career Mode for Season 2, Round 2, the Spanish Grand Prix. So we get into this one first of all with a bit of a department kind of thing going on. I think it's for the powertrain, so we do that. We decide to go for the agree option, which I think loses a bit of cash, but gives us a bit of resource points or morale or something like that. We've also then got the activities, which we're going to go for some simulator training for Alonso. I mean, his stats are really, really good, apart from focus, but honestly, I don't really see what focus does. I mean, we saw last season a lot of the top drivers, even Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, had bad focus. Sergio Perez was actually one of the best focused drivers, but he ended up having so many spins throughout the end of the season, so I don't really know how much of an effect the focus has, but we're going to do some, we're going to try and get Alonso back up there because he didn't have a great race last time. We're hoping that this time, and this is going to be his home Grand Prix as well, so hopefully he can pull something out of the bag here and do pretty well. We put some upgrades on the car, and that actually shoots our car way up the grid. We are now the 6th fastest car on R&D. We've kind of got into that mid-pack. We've jumped away from the kind of Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri pack. We're now well into the mid-pack with Alpine, Aston Martin, even McLaren, and I think Ferrari as well. So we're now solidly in that mid-pack fight, so hopefully we can show some good pace. However, this track, you may know from last season, is not my best track. I just don't seem to have any pace around Barcelona, Catalunya, Circuit de Catalunya. I just do not have the pace around this track compared to the AI. Now, last season, I made a mistake of turning my AI difficulty up by 1, which I think made it even worse. I've left it the same this time, and I think I'm a little bit better off than I was last season. Also, just generally having some, more practice, having a whole season now in the bag in the game. So, yeah, definitely better than I was last season, but this is still one of my weakest tracks on the game. We are now, like I said, 6th fastest in R&D, so we should fairly confidently be at least getting through to Q2 here. I mean, potentially for future races, we're at the point now where we're really, that midfield fight from McLaren, Ferrari, Alpine, Aston Martin, and now myself, it's going to be a big block, so we have the potential to be getting into Q3 now. However, this track just being not my track, I do not do that well. Fernando Alonso actually comes home P10, so he gets through to Q2 very easily there. We get knocked out in Q1. It's P17, so it's disappointing here, but I know this is one of my weakest tracks, so let's see if we can make up some positions in the race.
The Spanish Grand Prix has been a permanent fixture on the Formula One calendar for over 30 years now, and for good reason. Do you remember Michael Schumacher's absolute dominance here in that rain-soaked Grand Prix in 1996? That day he took his first ever victory for Ferrari, and we've had many more iconic moments since. It's a sellout crowd of 140,000 here today as we await lights out for the 730-metre sprint down to turn 1 of this 2.9-mile racetrack. Overtaking is challenging through these 16 corners, but there's still a lot of high-speed excitement to be found, including the flat-out turn 3 and the terrifying blind right of turn 9. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Let's start with Aston Martin. We have a number of changes to the aerodynamic regulations this year, and the signs haven't looked good for them so far in terms of getting to grips with those changes.
There are a few downcast looks within the team this weekend. I think they've been hit fairly hard by the new regs. But this is only the first step down a long road of development, and even if they don't maximise their points today, there are plenty more up for grabs this season.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Ricciardo, Max Verstappen, and Perez, Giovinazzi, Sainz, Vettel and Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Lundgaard, Lance Stroll and Tsunoda, Russell, Raikkonen, Shaw and Esteban Ocon, Bottas, Mick Schumacher, Latifi and Nikita Mazepin. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Alright, so we're starting P17 Fernando Alonso managed to get through to Q3 and starts P10, so it's a great position for him on his home Grand Prix to 5 red lights, and away we go. We're on the medium tyre with everyone else, so potentially the same sort of strategies going on, at least for kind of the cars that didn't get into the top 10. So although Alonso did get into the top 10, will that be a detriment to him here? We see on this first lap that actually it's Kimi Raikkonen, isn't it, in the other Alfa Romeo, manages to get up the inside of me into turn 1, so it's not been the greatest start for me. However, we do manage to just about pull ahead of him. I think we were actually ahead of him. Were we ahead of him? I can't remember. We might not have been actually. I think he might have started just ahead of us. So we managed to actually get the position on Raikkonen there. We've got Russell and Tsunoda up ahead 2 by 2. It's all very, very close. Russell looks like he's just about got the edge on Yuki Tsunoda. And we've kind of settled here into P16 as we get a bit over the curb there. There's just so many corners on this track that I just really, I struggle with a lot. That corner coming into there, that corner we've just gone through there, very fast corner. And then, you know, this corner here I'm not too bad as we get very well on the brakes there compared to Tsunoda. But then around here, it's just big, big bumps on that curb. And this corner here is terrifying. You can get it really, really wrong if you can either go way too wide and just lose all speed, or go over the curbs too much and spin around. So it's very, very difficult. And this last chicane here is also quite a difficult part of the track. So, yeah, this is just one of probably my weakest track on this game. We'll have to see how things fare later on in the season, but yeah, I'd say it is one of my weakest tracks in the game. As we look back at the start from Lando Norris, he starts on second place on the front row of the grid. He actually gets a really good start to get up the inside of Lewis Hamilton to go into turn 1. Hamilton also has a little bit of pressure from Charles Leclerc on the outside to the inside of the next corner there as well, but Hamilton manages to just about keep it from Leclerc. He's now side by side with Norris through the next corner, but Hamilton can just about get the position. But yeah, really good start from Norris there. Unfortunately couldn't quite keep the lead. Leclerc didn't quite put enough pressure, I suppose, on Hamilton, or Hamilton just, you know, I mean, you know, he's a 7-time world champion, so he's definitely got some nerves, and he doesn't feel the pressure too easily. As we continue on now through lap 3, and I mean, you might remember last season, this was actually my first DNF at this track of the season and of this whole career mode. I had a mechanical failure, and we ended up retiring on lap 4 of the Spanish Grand Prix last time, which honestly wasn't a massive deal to me because I didn't have good pace anyway. I was like way down the back of the field, fighting with the Hasses, but we've made it on to lap 5, so we have already made it further into this race than we did last year. Tsunoda and Russell once again going for it at each other in front. This time Tsunoda looks to just about have got the edge, but Russell is coming back fighting around the outside going into what is, I believe, turn 3, or I guess it kind of is actually turn 4, I don't really know. And it looks like Russell has now actually got the position, but Tsunoda is not giving up. He's staying around the outside, but he can't quite do it. Russell putting up a great fight there. I mean, the Alfa Romeo is technically the slightly quicker car. However, Russell, he's in the Alfa Romeo for the first time this season, so it's a new car for him. So Tsunoda putting quite a bit of pressure on. As we then come on to lap 7, we've got a great run on Tsunoda. We're actually going to stick it round the outside of turn 1. It brings us to the inside of turn 2, and then back to the outside of turn 3 here. And we're still round the outside. Tsunoda is putting up a good fight here. Russell is kind of going off in the distance with us fighting, but we're still side by side here. I'm trying to hang it round the outside of what I guess I would call turn 4, and I've just about got the position from Yuki Tsunoda. We're up into P13. I believe that is, and that actually becomes P6 once quite a lot of the cars in front come in for their first pit stops. So the top 10 in this race, I'm not 100% sure if they're all on soft tyres. Some of them might have got through to Q3 on the mediums, I'm not actually too sure, but I believe the top 10 are all starting on soft, so they'll be doing a 2-stop race, whereas pretty much everybody P11 and back is going to be doing a 1-stop like myself. We're actually going mediums to hards, so I'd imagine that's probably what everybody else is doing as well, because pretty much everyone started on mediums. There might have been some further back that didn't, but we're getting a great run on George Russell here. We're going to the outside of turn 1. We're side by side through this corner, but we managed to just about squeeze him out and get the position. A little bit of an easier overtake than Tsunoda that time, just kind of positioned our car well. George Russell gave us plenty of room to make the move, so good racing by him. And we start to make a little bit of a gap here. Once I get into the groove on this track, I can do some decent pace, but I'm still not really where I should be. from where our car is at the moment, I really should be fighting up in, up in the points with the Aston Martins, with the Alpines and stuff. I mean, you've got Esteban Ocon way down the order, but he, for some reason, is not showing good pace this season compared to his rookie teammate in the team of Christian Lundgaard, who of course got second place last time out. Watching on with Lando Norris here, he's kind of stuck in this pack here. Of course, he started in second place. He's on that 2-stop, but he's now stuck around some of the other cars that started on the mediums and are still going on the mediums. And he's also on mediums now, but can't quite make it move. This track is actually quite difficult to overtake on, so Norris and Verstappen behind actually getting caught up by the slower cars. As we head on to lap 14, we are coming in this lap for our one and only pit stop onto the hard compound tyres. See how we go here. Russell behind is going on for another lap, and Tsunoda as well. So have we benefited here with the undercut, or are they going to benefit with an overcut? It's a pretty decent pit stop from the team. We're going to see where we come out here because we don't want to get caught up too much with other traffic. We can actually see Alonso there. He's dropped a long way down the order after doing his first pit stop. We managed to just about get ahead of Latifi. He, I believe, will have to still come in for another pit stop, but at least we don't get stuck behind him, so that is good. Our pace on the Williams is very good. Once again, like it was in Bahrain, Christian Lundgaard is leading the Spanish Grand Prix. I mean, this has literally happened 2 times in a row now. He's been very lucky in the respect that I think he started P12 this race. I believe he started P12 in Bahrain as well. He was one of the first cars to be on that one-stop strategy, and it's just really worked out for him. So he's currently leading the Grand Prix. I think it's Hamilton behind though, who is on a 2-stop and has already come in for 1-stop and is catching him, but it's looking good once again for Lundgaard, and that 1-stop strategy is also looking good, which is good for us. We are actually now catching up to Fernando Alonso. I don't know if he had an issue here, because he would have started on softs, starting in the top 10. He's come in for his first pit stop onto mediums. I mean, our mediums will be better than his now because we have fresher mediums, but he's really not showing good pace here. I haven't been told that he has an issue, but I'm beginning to think that he has got an issue because he's fallen a ways back from Vettel up ahead. He's got a big 7.5 second gap or something, I think that is, to Vettel, so he's really lost out here. Looking through the replays, couldn't find any evidence that he'd had a spin or taken any damage or anything, so I think Alonso has got a car issue here, which is really unfortunate because it was looking good for him to potentially get into the points this race. As we go on to lap 19 here, we're getting the slipstream on and we're going to go for the overtake. It's going to be a little bit awkward here. I hope he doesn't fight us too much. He just about stays there on the inside, but he does give us room. He knows that we're faster, and really not looking good for Alonso here because we've passed him once again and he's still going to have another pit stop to do. As on that same lap here, or onto the next lap, I believe it is actually, George Russell is going for the overtake on Alonso as well. He's got the overtake done before turn 1, so he's down another position there to a car that would not be pitting once again, and Esteban Ocon would be the next car going for an overtake. I mean, I think this right here just shows how Alonso possibly does have an issue, because Alonso manages to get up the inside of him there. It's not a DRS zone. It's not a place that you generally see a lot of overtakes happening. So yeah, I think Alonso is having issues here, and Yuki Tsunoda is now right on the back of him. I mean, you can see Russell and Ocon kind of pull away in the distance. I think that Alonso definitely has an issue here, which is really unfortunate because it was looking like a good race for him. I don't think the 2-stop was the best way to go in this race. However, he didn't have much of a chance as Yuki Tsunoda tries to go around the outside but can't quite do it this time out. Yeah, he had to go for the 2-stop because of starting on soft tyres, so a little bit unfortunate because I think the 1-stop is the better strategy here for sure. Now we're kind of sitting here with George Russell and that behind. We've got just under a second gap now actually, as they're starting to catch us now that they've got past Alonso. Russell and Ocon are both actually starting to catch us, which is a little bit scary, as we have in front of us Carlos Sainz coming out of the pits there. He's just done his final stop, I presume, and is now going on to finish the race on these tyres. Unfortunately, we can't get past him, so we're in P11. We're 1 point away from point. Sainz is going to blast off ahead though because he's on fresh tyres, and he's just going to go off, and you know, we just don't have the pace here. On paper we supposedly are pretty similar on pace to Ferrari, but yeah, with him having fresh mediums, we're on hard tyres, and I just generally don't have the pace around this track. There's not really much of a fight that we can put up with. As carrying on here, Russell is starting to put some pressure on me. Max Verstappen is out of the Spanish Grand Prix. We see him on the left there. It's a mechanical failure from him. Pretty disappointing. To be honest, the Red Bulls have not had a great start to this season, I'm not going to lie. I mean, even Perez not in a particularly great position at the moment for where they should be. I'm pretty sure they're quite convincingly the second fastest car. You've got Red Bull, who are way ahead. You've then got a bit of a gap back to Red Bull, and then there's a little bit of a gap back to the midfield pack of McLaren, Ferrari, Alpine, Aston Martin, and now my team as well. So Red Bull should really be getting, you know, third and fourth place at worst, really. So a little bit disappointing for them at the moment, especially with Verstappen. As we carry on here, a few laps later, Mick Schumacher is now also out of the session, so 2 DNFs this race. I believe there was 2 DNFs last race as well. We head on to lap 29, I believe. Looking once again at Christian Lundgaard, he's now in second place. He doesn't have another pit stop to do. Pierre Gasly is behind him. Gasly actually started P11, so Lundgaard has managed to jump Gasly, starting just behind him. He's now ahead of Pierre Gasly, but yeah, Lewis Hamilton is way out in front. He's already done his final stop, I believe, and is quite convincingly going to win this race. But you've then got Lundgaard, Gasly, and Stroll. These guys are all on the one-stop strategy. Lando Norris is the first two-stopper in 5th place. He's trying to make his way through the grid, but like I said, fairly difficult to overtake on this track. So things are looking good once again for Lundgaard, and also Pierre Gasly up there in 3rd. As we continue on, going on to lap 30 here, we're getting ever more pressure from Russell behind. He's being egged on by Ocon, and Ocon's being egged on by Daniel Ricciardo, who, you know, as we see here, looking at our big train, you've kind of got the big train of Lundgaard back to, I believe it's Perez. Then the 2 Ferraris are kind of on their own, and then you've got me at the head of this train all the way back to, I believe it's Sebastian Vettel. It might be Yuki Tsunoda. Looking at the times there, there's some big trains going on here of slower cars just heading the train, and the quicker cars not being able to get through. And that's why I said that these 2 stoppers have really been out of position. I mean, Norris started in 2nd, he's now 5th. Giovinazzi is actually doing pretty well here. I mean, he only started in 7th after a poor qualifying. He's up in 6th, but to be fair, he should be higher up in that Mercedes. We continue on here, just trying to keep the train behind us. Russell is definitely not cracking under the pressure. He's putting big pressure on me. We're actually quite slow coming through here. This is one of my weakest parts of the track. I'm just deploying as much ERS as I can to try and keep ahead of these guys. I am currently in P10 thanks to Max Verstappen's DNF. We are actually running in the points, which is something that I didn't really expect to be happening in the Spanish Grand Prix. I definitely don't have the pace that I should. I mean, me and Russell are on the same tyres. Our car is a considerable amount higher than Russell's on R&D now, but he's putting big pressure on us, and in some ways is actually quite a bit quicker than us. So it's yeah, we definitely don't have the pace here. We're getting quite lucky in the fact that this one stop seems to be the way to go, and we made the overtake on Russell earlier on. But onto the final lap, Russell is going for the inside. He's having a little look, but he can't quite do it. We managed to just about keep the position, and that is his best opportunity to overtake there. He could potentially go for an overtake into turn 4 here. He's fairly close, but not quite close enough, as Lewis Hamilton wins the Spanish Grand Prix. That's 2 in a row for him, taking a considerable lead in the Drivers' Championship. We around the final corner, and we are going to finish P10 in the Spanish Grand Prix. 1 point for us. That's better than anything I could have imagined on this track. I really didn't have the pace. We just managed to make that one stop work and keep these guys behind. Christian Lundgaard gets driver of the day because he once again finished in P2.
They've done it then. A spectacular victory here in Spain and a massive confidence boost going into the next race. Anthony Davidson, what helped them deliver this result, do you think?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So Lewis Hamilton wins the Spanish Grand Prix, extending his lead in the championship. Christian Lundgaard gets second place for 2 races in a row. So he's quite considerably second in the championship now. Pierre Gasly actually comes home in 3rd place. A really good result from him considering where that AlphaTauri car is. So, yeah, a really crazy podium once again. But Christian Lundgaard, 2 second places in a row. He is absolutely... He's doing so well in that Alpine, because these last 2 races, that one-stop strategy just seems to have been the way to go, and the top 10 have actually been at a bit of a disadvantage. I finished P10, Alonso's all the way down in P17. Unfortunate for him, we dropped down to 11th in the standings as Lando Norris moves up to 9th after his DNF in Bahrain with a 5th place here for 10 points. Alonso's down in 16th. I'm really hoping that in the next couple of rounds he can pick up some points, because he definitely has the pace. He should have the pace to do it. We move down to 8th in the Constructors as well, as AlphaTauri jump up to 6th with that 3rd place from Gasly. So yeah, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.